into the bag to start bringing out all the things that Chansu ordered, like pest control plant seeds. There's also a building construction kit with her. In no time, Chansu builds a portable home for adventurers, and he also plants the pest-repelling seeds in the area. This leaves Haisujin shocked because she didn't know that Chansu has the ability to also grow plants in a short duration of time. Haisujin continues wondering just what kind of person Chansu is. Soon afterward, he purchases the new block, leaving the goddess and her retainer rejoicing like babies. Chansu is also happy because he has finally become a landowner. Apparently, a single block usually consists of 100 ownership units, and once all are acquired, the faction gains possession. Chansu is exceptionally happy because back on Earth, he could barely acquire a single room. In addition to this, purchasing the land comes with a bunch of new features, and the most important one is the block's trait assignment feature. Chansu gets a tip from the system, telling him that the traits assignable to a block depend on the apostle's god or the block's nature. Chansu is happy to hear this because the feature fits perfectly with the goddess's nature. The system asks him to choose a trait to assign to the block, and his options are growth and death. Since growth sounds better than death, he thinks of choosing growth. In addition, he believes that this will help with the goddess's growth too. Chansu applies the growth trait, but things don't look entirely different from what they look like. Chansu concludes that there is no notable difference because it is still on stage 1. He checks out the status window to see that the growth trait affects basically everything. Chansu is smiling until he realizes that there is an option for spawned monster growth there. Chansu almost faints from the fear creeping through his body when he sees this. This basically means the trait has its bad and good attributes. One of the bad attributes is that the undead monsters have partaken in it too. Even though they have grown, Chansu is relieved that they are still manageable. Chansu heads out as usual to take on monsters, and he easily takes them down as usual. He is glad because the undead monsters growing stronger also means more points for him. Suddenly, Rohan appears behind him, shocking him because he didn't even sense his presence. Chansu figures out that Rohan has come to see him because his apple is already finished. Rohan wonders what Chansu meant by already, and Chansu reminds him that it has not even been a week since he got the last batch. Chansu concludes that Rohan is just going to die from eating too many apples. Chansu then asks him how many apples he needs, and he replies that he wants 120, but if he can get more, he won't mind. Chansu then tells Rohan that he would have to adjust the flavor because of the change in environment. He says Rohan will taste one for free. Unknown to Chansu, the goddess and her retainers are gathered under the apple tree. He is shocked when he gets there to find them playing around. The group almost sinks into the ground when they spot Rohan, since he looks pretty dangerous. Suddenly, Rohan swings his sword, and Chansu believes that he is aiming for the group. He dives to protect them, but in the end, Rohan was just aiming for the apples. Chansu believes that Rohan has not sensed the presence of the goddess, since he called them familiars. Just then, Rohan says he can sense the growth trait on the block, and because of this, he would like to stay and train, but he assures Chansu that he is going to pay. Chansu becomes interested when he hears that Rohan is willing to pay, and he asks him how much he is offering. Rohan smiles while telling him the amount of money he is ready to throw out. This sends Chansu into a state of ecstasy, and he immediately shakes Rohan's hand, welcoming him as his esteemed customer. Rohan asks him if he thinks his request is possible, and Chansu says yes. However, he wants to know if the environment will not be torn in half, and Rohan assures him that it won't. Chansu also asks if things will suddenly explode out of nowhere, but Rohan assures him that he has nothing to worry about. Chansu then tells Rohan that he doesn't have the power to manufacture monsters, since he doesn't even have lots of points to spare. Rohan lets him know that he doesn't need his help to sort out monsters because all he needs is a space in the corner. Chansu is surprised to hear that this is all Rohan needs. Chansu has no issues with this, but he tells Rohan that there is something else he wants aside from money. Chansu lets out his heart, saying he would like Rohan to be his guard. Since the world they are living in is prone to being in danger every time, Chansu thinks it would be better for Rohan to protect. After all, Rohan is one of the best swordsmen out there. Rohan replies that he will consider Chansu's offer if he can enhance the growth effect. Chansu is glad to hear this, and he assures Rohan that he is going to enhance the growth rate by 50,000 points every day. In addition, he's willing to provide 10 apples daily. Rohan is more concerned about the apples, and he asks if they can be purchased differently. Chansu then assures him that he doesn't have to worry about the apples. Meanwhile, Doji and the others are shaking in fear because it seems Rohan will now be staying with them. On the other hand, Chansu thinks the familiars will be happy because they have a swordsmaster protecting them. Chansu turns around to see a different reaction from the group. Rohan also sees this, but Chansu lies, saying the group is only shy because he is new. Chansu tries to get them to become familiar with Rohan, but the group runs away instead. Chansu cannot believe his eyes, but he moves past the embarrassing moment to tell Rohan his first request. Later on, the two are inspecting the other block when Rohan senses something behind the brushes. They walk over to check it out, only to find a cat lying there. Chansu is surprised because he wasn't expecting any other animals like Hamstal to be in the area. Because of how relaxed the cat looks, Chansu believes that it is not dangerous, and before Rohan can stop him, Chansu walks up to the cat to pet it. The cat wakes up to see an ugly face standing over it, and it jumps away like it just saw a ghost. The cat hisses at Chansu, which almost sends a chill feeling down his spine. The status window then informs Chansu that the cat is actually the Apostle of Negation, and it has declared war on his block. Chansu is shocked that the Apostle declared war on him just because he patted it a bit. With tears in his eyes, he asks Rohan if the cat is the Apostle of Negation because it has declared war on him. But Rohan believes that the dude is saying trash. Chansu suspects that the cat is mad because he was touched without permission. Chansu walks over to the cat to try to settle their differences while wondering why he has to fight a little cat. Just then, Rohan shocks him, telling him that he won't be fighting the cat. Rohan says the apostles he will be fighting will appear through the block's border very soon. Surprisingly, Rohan says they will be human. Chansu is shocked to hear this because it was easy for him to kill monsters, but humans are a different story. As if Rohan knows what he is thinking, he tells him that he is free to kill Negation. Rohan lets Chansu know that they have the option to resurrect at the temple. Chansu is shocked to hear this, and he asks Rohan if he is talking about a checkpoint, and Rohan says yes. Chansu considers this an unfair advantage because he and his group don't have the luxury of just getting a second chance if they mess up. Negation apostles, on the other hand, can act recklessly and not suffer the consequences that come with it. Chansu is hyped for the battle, since he is at a disadvantage, and he asks Rohan if he is going to help him with the battle ahead. Rohan replies that he is willing to help if he can. Just as predicted, a group of Negation-loyal monsters and human apostles appear on the block. One of them holds a megaphone in his hand, and he makes a loud announcement telling Chansu to show himself. At the alchemy headquarters, Hasujin has taken the ostrich tail sap for examination. She is thinking about just how impressive Chansu is. She believes that Chansu is strong the way he is with the help of an artifact. Apparently an artifact is a divine item that is created for those close to a god. Sometimes it is formed from remnants of a dead god, which in turn grants the user the opportunity to use the god's power. After thinking this through, Haisujin doesn't think Chansu is using an artifact because they are hard to use unless they match the deity's nature. Haisujin is thinking about the future possibilities of things when Unsu rushes into the room. Haisujin is shocked and even more shocked when Unsu starts walking toward her. Unsu has the ostrich tail sap with him and he screams at Unsu asking him where he got the sap from. The question shocks Haisujin, but without a doubt, she knows that something crazy is about to happen again. Back at Chansu's block, the apostles urge him to step out before they get tired of searching for him. Unknown to them, Chansu and Rohan are hiding in the nearby bushes. Chansu wonders why the dudes are acting recklessly, and he asks Rohan if he thinks this is because they can resurrect even if they die. Rohan confirms this, saying they are probably acting that way due to the chances of getting resurrected. Even though they have little time to engage the enemies, Chansu is relieved to have Rohan at his side. He is basically putting all of his faith in Rohan. Just then, Chansu steps out of his hiding place, holding his sickle. The apostle stares at Chansu like he is some kind of weakling, and he tells him to bring him apples. Another dude makes fun of Chansu, telling him that he is outnumbered and that he has no chance against them. However, the team starts getting nervous because they can't see Chansu do anything, which is pretty weird. After some minutes of silence, Chansu finally speaks out, telling the apostle that he is nothing but trash and that he is not worth worrying over. Chansu is confident that he has the Swordsmaster backing him, and before the negation dudes will have to get the chance to do something crazy, Rohan would have dealt with them. The apostle is pissed by this, and he gives Chansu one more chance to surrender the Emperor apples. Chansu retorts, telling him to head to the department store if he really wants to eat apples. The apostle is overtaken with rage because of Chansu's big mouth, and he asks him if he can handle the consequences of his arrogance. Chansu further breaks the dude's ego by telling him to go ask his mother all the trash questions he is asking him. Chansu's words hit the dude at the spot where he wants, and he angrily tells his subordinates to kill Chansu. At the alchemy office, Unsu is pestering Haisujin about where she got the sap. Haisujin feels like telling him, but she mentions that customers' information is confidential. Unsu then tells her that he only asked because of the labor fee. Unsu comes clean, saying the ostrich tail sap that Haisujin brought has a higher purity percentage than the regular ones, which is always hard to maintain their purity level. Unsu brings out a contract sheet and hands it over to Haisujin, asking her if she can continue supplying them with the sap. Haisujin replies that she might have to ask the cultivator first, and Unsu suggests that they sign a provisional contract. Unsu is happy to hear this, and he lets Haisujin know that whoever is responsible for the sap will always be welcome to the alchemy department. Back to the standoff between Chansu and the negation apostles, the lead apostle notices that Chansu is pretty calm for someone who is outnumbered. He wonders why Chansu is so confident, and on the other hand, Chansu is thinking of how he is going to take down the skeletons approaching him. As the skeletons rush toward him, Chansu activates the mass decapitation skill, and he wipes out the entire skeleton team in one fell swoop. The apostle is surprised to see his subordinates flying in the air like they are feathers. Chansu piles on the misery by telling the apostle that his subordinates are quite weak. Chansu stands above the bones, asking the apostle if he is ready to surrender. However, the apostle is not about to lose to some derated farmer. The apostle brings out an orb, and using the orb, he summons a giant monster called Heracles. Heracles looks absolutely terrifying with a lion's head attached to his left shoulder. Instead of running off in fear, Chansu still finds a way to trash talk the apostle, telling him that he is very bad at giving names. The apostle laughs at Chansu, telling him that he is about to regret his actions because Heracles is a weapon worth lots of money. The apostle then orders Heracles to go after Chansu. Heracles swings his giant punch, but he easily dodges it. Before Heracles can make another move, Chansu swings his sickle at him and sends him to the heavens in just one strike. Heracles crashes to the ground, shocking the apostle, who was already boasting of how strong Heracles is. The apostle cries in pain, saying Heracles is a monster he has been putting together for the past 10 years, and Chansu took it down, like it's nothing. The apostle then turns to his subordinate, Soye, a fourth-generation apostle, to scold her for not joining the fight. Soye reminds the dude that he was the one who confidently went after Chansu, and she doesn't see any reason why he should complain after getting whooped by a farmer. Soye tells the dude that she's willing to get her hands dirty, but she will be getting extra fees. After all, her role was to guide the way, and nothing else. Chansu is smiling and getting excited about the whole thing, until Soye turns her gaze at him, and her eyes turn red. This is when a tip comes in, telling Chansu that Soye uses the skill called Negation of Life, which places a curse on the target. The system doesn't sugarcoat how dangerous the skill is, and before Chansu knows it, he has fallen under Soye's skill. The annoying dude starts laughing when he realizes Chansu has fallen for Soye's trap. He tells Chansu that he is about to witness what happens when someone crosses the negation. Soye screams at the dude, telling him not to forget the real reason why they came in the first place. The dude quickly gets a move on to try and find the apple tree, but he promises to get revenge for his broken creation later. As he dashes through the woods, he can smell the apples in the air, and he figures out that it is just a matter of time before he gets there. Suddenly, he notices a faint movement behind him, but when he turns around, he sees no one. He is left in confusion as he doesn't know where the person is. Suddenly, Rohan appears above him, and thanks to Rohan being a popular swordmaster, the dude recognizes him. However, this doesn't do him much help as Rohan cuts him down. Meanwhile, Chansu suddenly opens his eyes to find himself back on Earth. The last thing he remembered was fighting the negation, but he had suddenly appeared somewhere else. He realizes that things appear to be totally different from what he knows. Just then, he hears his parents call his name from behind. He turns around to see that his parents are actually standing there, and his face lights up in joy as he rushes toward them. He jumps into their arms and hugs them tightly as tears roll down his face. Chansu cries out loudly, asking the two where they have been so far, and he begs them not to go anywhere again. Suddenly, his biggest fear starts to take place in front of him again. His parents push him aside and they walk away, as he screams, begging them not to leave. Chansu screams out in pain, but suddenly, Rohan pulls him out of the weird dream he is having. He tells him that he is suffering from Soye's trick, and what he saw wasn't real. Rohan had hit Soye on the arm while trying to rescue Chansu, and she couldn't believe that Rohan was in a place like this. Soye crashes to her knees, and Chansu angrily goes after her with his sickle, ready to punish her for making him cry. However, Rohan gets to Soye before him, and he cuts her down. Soye gets buried by the swampy water, and Rohan apologizes for butting in unnecessarily. However, Chansu is not pissed about this, but he is even thankful. Chansu then suggests that they go back to base while they come back to clean up the mess. Rohan asks him what his future plan is, and he reveals that his plan is to become the world's strongest force. However, the first thing that they are going to do is to take over every surrounding block. He asks Rohan if he can keep helping with this. and Rohan assures him that he has no reason to deny as long as he pays him with apples. Chansu then assures Rohan that he is going to pay him with as many apples as he wants. As they walk back to base, they run into the black cat again, and Chansu asks Rohan about the deal with the cat. Rohan casually tells him that the cat is one of the 7 calamities, a territorial predator. This shocks Chansu because he thought the cat was a usual friendly cat, and he realizes that he might have gotten himself killed without knowing. On the other hand, the negation soldier has found himself locked up in a cell for losing the battle against Chansu. The system tells him that a surcharge penalty has been applied due to the extreme difference between his faction and Chansu's low-level faction. He is required to pay 1 million gold coins as punishment, and this shocks the dude because he doesn't think the power difference is fair. He refuses to pay the money, claiming that there was a swordmaster supporting Chansu. The system then recognizes the dude's refusal to pay as an inability to repay the required debt and would be transferred to negation. The dude sees this, and he freaks out, urging the system to come back because he is now ready to pay. Just then, he is dragged out of his cell by the undead monsters, and to make his situation worse, a scary negation apostle, Danha, shows up. She tells the dude to carefully explain what happened if he doesn't want to suffer a fate worse than death. The dude tells Danha that he found the cultivation site for the Emperor's apple. Danha believes that the dude is lying to save his own skin, but he swears it, saying Rohan was the one who disrupted his plans. Danha still doesn't want to believe this because she is well aware that the reparations wouldn't have been set too high if Rohan had fought alongside Chansu. The dude continues telling Danha that he is telling the truth. He mentions that Soye was defeated too, and this comes as a surprise to Danha. Danha then stands up from where she is sitting and she walks toward the dude. The dude almost loses his little manly ego as the scary lady walks up to him. Danha then tells the dude that they can't hold Soye accountable, which means he will be the one to suffer the consequences of their failure. Danha smiles evilly while telling the dude that she has a proposition. She grabs the dude's head and puts him under a contract that will make him a prisoner until he fulfills her wishes. She tells the dude to head to the cultivation site and start working on it. The dude argues that this is impossible, but Danha threatens to turn him into an undead if he doesn't cooperate. She lets him know that the only way he is getting out of this mess is to find a way to infiltrate the apple cultivation site. On the other hand, Chansu is still freaking out when he hears that the black cat is one of the 7 calamities. Chansu asks Rohan if they are going to be fine, and he lets him know that they would be dead already if the cat wanted them gone. Chansu then asks what would happen if the cat actually wanted to do something bad, and Rohan lets him know that the cat would simply devour their territorial rights. Chansu panics when he hears this because he doesn't even think territorial rights are something that can be eaten. Chansu rushes to check the system and he realizes that it can actually be eaten, but he is glad that the cat has not decided to eat it yet. Chansu then demands to know why the cat is there, and Rohan reveals that the cat is there for catnip. This leaves Chansu surprised again because the monster is not a real cat, which begs the question of why it is going after catnip. Rohan then points out the fact that the cat has shrunk, and Chansu uses his blessing of abundance to help the cat. The cat rolls around on its back, urging Chansu to touch it, and when he does, he realizes that it is different from touching Hamstol because the cat is big and fluffy. Nonetheless, Rohan doesn't want to get carried away because he knows the cat is pretty dangerous and might easily end him if it wants to. Just then, it dawns on Chansu that the cat has been with them for a while, and it would be nice if it had a name. After so much deliberation on what to name the cat, Chansu finally settles for Night Sky. The cat stares at Chansu, demanding to know why he picked Night Sky, and Chansu mentions the cat's attributes that made him choose the name. Suddenly, Chansu gets the notification that he has won the war, and he has been given a compensation of 1 billion. Chansu is still celebrating this when he gets another notification, telling him that Negation has requested negotiations. Apparently, until they are done with negotiations, the loser will be retained as a prisoner. Chansu freaks out in pain, demanding that his 1 billion is returned to him, but there is nothing he can do about the situation. Later that night, Chansu makes a vow to the goddess while she is sleeping, assuring her that he is going to make abundance the greatest power in the world because thanks to her, his life has gotten much better. He promises the goddess that he is going to help her reclaim her lost glory, and the goddess places her head on his arm with tears rolling out of her eyes when she hears this. Later on, Chansu scolds Rohan that the only thing he has been eating is apples. He lets him know that he is supposed to be eating other foods so as to maintain a balanced diet, but Rohan doesn't really care. Even during all the lectures and whatnot, Rohan assumes that Chansu is just trying to steal his apple. Chansu is forced to leave the matter because he realizes that Rohan is a swordmaster and he can take care of himself. After he is done with Rohan, he walks over to the goddess and her servants. He chose to speak casually to the goddess because he is still trying to hide her identity from Rohan. The goddess's subordinates freak out when they hear this, and they start yelling at Chansu even though he can't hear them. They believe that he is acting all cool thanks to the fact that he has been earning points for them. While the others are freaking out, the pig is the first to figure out that Chansu is probably doing that to protect the goddess, since Rohan doesn't know the goddess's real identity. Just like kids, a brief battle ensues between the pig and the chick, all because of talking to the goddess casually. Shortly afterward, Chansu prepares to leave the temple again, and he assures the goddess that he is not going to stay long. Rohan then tells him that the flow of time in each world is different. In fact, there are differences between Earth and where it is. Because of this, Rohan advises Chansu not to rush too much. Just when he is about to leave, Chansu tells Hamstol that he can come with him because he has gotten a pouch specifically designed to hold him. Hamstol excitedly jumps into the pouch as he joins Chansu on a journey to expand the territory. Thankfully, Chansu has placed a door on the exits for easy access, and with this, he has no need for a travel pass. He steps through the door to find Hasujin already waiting for him. Hasujin freaks out when she realizes that Rohan is still with Chansu, and he lets her know that they have agreed to stay together for the time being. Hasujin holds her head in frustration, saying she was already suspecting, but she didn't know Chansu would go through with it. She then asks him where the cat came from. Chansu lets her know that it was the cat who found its way to him, and he also tells her the cat's name. Hasujin is impressed to hear this as she talks about how smart the cat is. Deep down, Chansu is pleased that Night Sky is smart enough to know that eating the territorial rights means no more apples, hence no catnip. Hasujin then tells Chansu that smart monsters sell for a whole lot of money on the market, but Chansu lets her know that this might be a problem. Hasujin suggests that he install a dungeon to make things easy for him because monsters naturally gather in dungeons. Chansu thinks about it for a bit and realizes that Hasujin is right, and the dungeons might come in handy later. However, Chansu lets Hasujin know that there might be a bit of difficulty because Night Sky came from another block, which he doesn't even know. Hasujin gets more curious, asking if Night Sky is a human who turned into a cat. But Chansu lets her know that Rohan claims that Night Sky is a territory devourer. Hasujin is forced to say this out loud, and Chansu confirms it. Hamstol almost dies out of fear when it hears this. Chansu then adds that Night Sky is actually one of the 7 calamities. Hamstol's spirit immediately leaves his body when it hears this, and Hasujin tries to play it cool. She smiles, and then suddenly grabs Chansu before leaping away from the area. With tears in her eyes, she asks Chansu why he has one of the 7 calamities in his territory. Apparently there are reports that the calamities can devour not just territorial rights but entire blocks. She demands to know why Night Sky would come, and Chansu says there is a possibility that it came because of catnip. Haisujin doesn't want to believe that Night Sky settled for only catnip when it is not even a real cat. Chansu confesses that he doesn't know either, but he gave some really dumb explanation about why Night Sky might prefer to have the catnip rather than destroy the territory. Haisujin agrees with him but lets him know that they can't say for sure since it is all guesswork. Chansu also knows this, but he believes that he has no choice, since he is the chosen one. Haisujin then asks him if everything is going to be fine because she would hate to come around one day, only to find everything in chaos. Chansu believes that Night Sky might actually protect the block, since cats are territorial creatures. Suddenly, Chansu sees Night Sky trying to eat Hamstall and he rushes over to stop it. Chansu grabs Hamstall away, telling Night Sky that it is not food. Night Sky just gives Chansu the side eye and Chansu asks Rohan why he didn't do anything when he was there. Rohan claims that he was going to stop it if something had happened, but Chansu points out that Hamstall almost got eaten. Haisujin then suggests that they handle everything carefully before the two get used to each other. Haisujin then reveals that there is something Chansu needs to know. Apparently there is a scammer who is claiming ownership of the Emperor's apple. Chansu doesn't really take this seriously and Haisujin lets him know that the dude is claiming that he is the Apostle of Abundance, which means he has a right to the apple. Chansu is shocked when he hears this, and Haisujin adds that the dude brought an apple to prove he's an apostle, but it turned out to be a knockoff. In fact, he brought a fake contract, but everything has been cleared out. Just then, Haisujin notices that Chansu is acting weird and she asks him what the problem is. Chansu is pissed to find out that there is another apostle aside from him, and he hasn't shown up from the start. To make it worse, he is now claiming ownership, calling himself the Apostle of Abundance. With a stern voice, Chansu tells Haisujin that they need to find the dude. Haisujin is surprised as to why he wants to find him, and Chansu lets Haisujin know that he is actually the Apostle of Abundance. Haisujin freaks out when she hears this, since she wasn't expecting it. Chansu tells Haisujin to put a bounty on the dude, and in fact, he is ready to pay extra for the artifact. Apparently, if the dude is captured alive, Chansu is willing to pay 100 apples as a reward. Even Rohan gets tickled when he hears the reward that is being offered. Meanwhile, somewhere in Negation's back alley, there is a dude in a hoodie thinking about how he wants to convince Rohan and Chansu. He walks into a shop, and the light comes down on his face to show that it is the Negation soldier, Kim Yunhook. Apparently, he is a regular customer at the shop, but the shop owner already knows that he is a broke ass. Yunhook gives the shop owner a list of things that he wants, and in exchange for them, he is forced to give out the last prized stone that he has. Yunhook then tells the man to give him a good price because this might be the last time they are going to see each other. Realizing that Yunhook is totally broke, the shop owner tells him about the bounty that has been placed on the scammer. The moment Yunhook hears this, he dashes out of the shop, thanking the shop owner for giving him an opportunity. Apparently, Yunhook has finally found the proposal gift he has been looking for to try to convince Chansu. Not long after this, Yunhook shows up at Chansu's place. He is accompanied by 2 of his friends, who also want to serve under Chansu. To properly convince Chansu, he lets him know that he has caught the scammer. Chansu is shocked when he realizes that Yunhook had already caught the scammer, given the movement restrictions and all. He is not entirely surprised because the reward was too good to be ignored. Staring at the scammer, Park Hyunmo, Chansu could actually sense the aura of abundance from his body. Since he doesn't look all that much, Chansu wonders how Park was able to deceive people to scam them. Park starts grumbling, telling Chansu to untie him because he is currently practicing insubordination. Chansu angrily whips out his sickle, telling the dude that he sure knows how to piss people off. Park then makes fun of Chansu, telling him that he is only acting tough because he can't possibly kill him. Chansu walks up to him, places the sickle on his throat, and reminds him that they are both apostles of abundance, which means he knows exactly where to cut to finish him off. However, before anything else, he demands to know where the artifact is. Park scolds Chansu, saying he is trying to rob his senior. Chansu simply makes fun of him, telling him that he has been yapping all day long, which is not a good sign of a senior. Yunhook ignores the dude and excitedly whips out the artifact, which is a crown made from flowers. Chansu checks out the artifact, and when he realizes that there is no aura coming from it, he confirms that Park is truly his senior. This only makes Chansu angrier because it is exactly because of him that the goddess turned out the way she is. Chansu then walks up to Park, calling him a traitor and letting him know that he has no right to even talk about the Emperor Apple. Park argues that he deserves the rights that come with the Emperor's apples because he is an apostle. Chansu then reminds the dude that he didn't contribute anything, which brings him to the question of what right he has to ask for anything. Park makes the whole thing worse by asking Chansu what he has done too. Park tells Chansu that he is only walking on the foundation he has already laid. He claims that the apples, monsters, and even the temple have all been him from the beginning. Chansu is pissed when he hears this, but he tries to keep a calm profile because thinking about it, it doesn't appear that Park was working alone. Chansu then asks Park who the hell is backing him. Chansu mentions that it is his job to protect and care for his god, but he abandoned her. To do this, Chansu believes that the dude has something he relied on. Park replies that there is nothing like that because he was only trying to survive, and he ended up driven into a trash place. Chansu then raises his sword to decapitate him, since he doesn't have anything good to say. Realizing that Chansu might actually go through with it, Park screams out in pain, talking about how he didn't have a choice. He claims that he was just a normal human who had never swung a sickle before in his life. Chansu is tired of hearing his BS, and he tells him to just go ahead and tell him who is backing him. Park replies that he doesn't know because they only promised to give him money for life, and he followed. However, he got tricked, and the money never came. Chansu is surprised to hear this because the dude is basically useless at this point. Park starts begging, telling Chansu to forgive him because he would not do such a thing again. However, Chansu lets him know that it is already too late, and he hits him on the head to knock him out. Chansu wants to kill him, but he still can't imagine himself hurting a real person, even though it is a game world. Suddenly, he gets an invite from the god of negation, asking him to convert because if he becomes his apostle, he can easily kill Park. Chansu cannot believe that negation is stalking him. Chansu then asks what would happen if he killed Park, who is in the same faction as him, and Yunhook tells him that it is a taboo and might get excommunicated. Negation then uses this opportunity to start disturbing Chansu with more offers, but Chansu rejects everything. Negation is so desperate that it even suggests that Chansu take a month's break. Chansu is forced to scream out that he is not interested. Chansu then figures out that Negation is connected to him somehow, which is why he is able to send messages to him the way he wants. Since Yunhook is begging to be hired, Chansu gives him his first task, which is watching over Park. Not long after this, Chansu returns to the temple with the artifact of abundance. Chansu lets the goddess know that he is there to return what originally belongs to her, and the goddess doesn't want to take it. However, Chansu lets her know that she can, because he is doing fine even without the artifact. The goddess finally takes it, and this emits a bright light that leads to a divine transformation. Chansu watches in shock as the goddess transforms from the plant form into a young girl. Her subordinates jump up in joy because the goddess has finally gained her powers. Chansu is shocked when he sees this because he didn't believe that he was standing right in front of the goddess. Chansu smiles because he never thought he would see this day. Just then, the goddess appoints Chansu as the chief apostle, which gives him the power to manage other apostles. Chansu is surprised because he didn't know that a function like this actually existed. Chansu immediately makes the decision on Park since he can't kill him. Chansu wastes no time demoting Park to a servant, ultimately stripping him of his apostle title. The goddess is left in shock, and so are her subordinates. This is also when it dawns on Chansu that the title of chief apostle is gone. He notices the goddess's reaction, and he realizes that the goddess must have really cared, but he somehow messed things up. Just then, the goddess starts transforming back into her plant form. Chansu kneels in front of the goddess, apologizing to her, but he lets her know that it is not advisable to keep a traitor in their midst. Chansu then assures the goddess that he is going to grow their influence further, so she has nothing to worry about. The goddess is happy to hear this, and she grants another skill option for Chansu. He gets the option to pick between the communication skill and the health abundance skill. Chansu is surprised to see this because the goddess is basically overworking herself at this point. Nonetheless, he decides to check it out. Meanwhile, the chick is pretty mad that Chansu is excommunicating people when they barely have any apostles. Thankfully, the pig is there to hold it down. The chick stares at Chansu, hoping that he will pick the communication skill so that they can avoid situations like the one that just happened. To their dismay, Chansu picks the healthy abundance option even though he has no idea what the skill does. He just assumes that it is a passive skill that makes one healthier as they eat food blessed with abundance. The goddess and her subordinates break down in tears because they believe it is finally the end. Since Chansu doesn't look like someone who is ready to select the communication skill, they are still troubled about this when the goddess finally transforms back into her plant form. Seeing this, Chansu has no choice but to hope that the healthy abundance helps in a lot of ways. Later on, those who have been scammed by Park all receive a free Emperor Apple from Chansu through the circulation company. They are all informed to be wary of next time because the Emperor Apple only comes via the circulation company. One mother cuts out a slice and hands it to her son. Upon tasting the apple, the son freaks out because of how delicious it is, and he ends up using the F word. His mother believes that he is overreacting, but when she has a taste too, she has no choice but to use the F word. The woman decides that she has no choice but to brag about how good the apple is. Days later, the online community is going crazy about how good the apple is. The online posts then further increase the glaze on the apple. In no time, the rumors start to mutate into the fact that the Emperor Apple is good for virility. Meanwhile, the situation is being monitored by a dude in glasses. Later on, Chansu thinks about the next plan of action. He is glad that he managed to secure all the blocks around the temple, and since Rohan is with him, he believes that everything should be fine. Not long after this, Haesujin shows up to tell Chansu that they have a problem. She lets him know that there is a new rumor about the Emperor's apples. Chansu doesn't think it's that serious since the apples have turned into a cure-all apple. However, he freaks out when he hears that the rumor is about virility. He realizes that this is not a simple statement since the earth is already losing its vitality. Basically, the issue of virility was a serious one that some people even died from eating a snake's gallbladder thanks to how desperate they were. Haesujin then asks him if he is pretty sure that there are no actual effects coming from the apples. Chansu then mentions that there are a few who claim that they are seeing results, and this includes Rohan. Chansu believes that this is basically because they feel better, and in addition, he didn't even add any special virility boost effect to the apples. Chansu then suggests that they grow a fruit that is actually good for virility if they are trying to avoid backlash. Haesujin agrees with him, saying this is a good idea. They obviously do not need marketing for it again because it has publicized itself already. However, the question of which crop is going to work remains. The question, and Rohan suggests that they use wolfberries. Chansu is surprised to hear this because he believed that Rohan only cared about apples. Since Rohan suggested wolfberries, Chansu decides to go with that, and he mentions that they are going to need workers. Fortunately for Yoonhook, his chance finally came, and he assures Chansu that he is going to work really well. Chansu is surprised to see how eager the dude is to work, and Chansu lets him know that he is not obligated to decide so quickly. In addition, he lets him know that he is not forcing him to participate either. One of Yoonhook's friends then asks Chansu what it is that they are planning to cultivate. Chansu reveals that it is wolfberries, and the dude immediately goes on his knees, begging Chansu to take him in. Chansu cannot believe how desperate they are to work because everybody connected to Yoonhook is ready to join in. At this point, Chansu assumes that the group has issues. Not long after this, Chansu invites Haesujin, and he gives her a basket of the wolfberries that have been cultivated to tackle the virility issue. In fact, Chansu has created a pill that would induce potency in just 30 minutes. Haesujin is blown away because Chansu was able to create something like this in a short space of time. Chansu is a bit embarrassed because this is the first time he will be using the blessing of abundance to actually boost a specific body function. However, he was able to discover the method thanks to a dude who is an expert in pleasure relations. Chansu then tells Haesujin that they might see a wider variety of medicines being released for a while, and he urges Haesujin to verify the safety first. Haesujin looks absolutely invested as she assures Chansu that she is going to make sure she turns every one of the wolfberries into gold. Chansu smiles, telling Haesujin that he would be counting on her. Deep down, Chansu is eager to see what kind of news the wolfberries will bring this time around. When Haesujin returned to the office, she started thinking of a way to get people to buy the berries, and her option was to make them think with their lower body rather than their heads. She decides to brew it and package it in bottles, believing that it would make it sell better. After brewing it, she drinks it in front of her boss, and he asks her how it tastes. She replies that it's savory and even has a faintly sweet taste. She mentions that it is easy to drink just like water. She then urges her boss to have a drink, but he is scared to do so. However, she manages to convince the dude to gulp up the rest of the bottle. After he is done drinking, he lets Haesujin know that he might not be able to testify about the effects, but he can surely say the flavor is decent. After this, Haesujin tells her boss that she has to leave. Apparently, she is heading to a peculiar place, which isn't the alchemy office, by the way, since they are the ones who generally certify medicinal items. Haesujin then makes her way to the only block that has been configured to remain dim even during the daylight. This is a scenery that would cause some to feel lonely, ultimately desiring partners. Staring at the environment, Haesujin realizes that all the people he is staring at are potential customers. This is basically because the happier they become, the more she sells. Haesujin then makes her way to the Temple of Purity, which is in the middle of it all. She meets the receptionist, and she states her business to her. She lets her know that she is there to obtain certification for a stamina booster, and the lady asks her to follow him to the reception room. As she walks through the hall, Haesujin is blown away by how everything is laid out. Apparently, the Temple of Purity has taken over the adult market, which is weird because lust or carnal should be the ones controlling everything. When the apostle checked out the wolfberry tea, he handed Haesujin the certification, saying it is actually effective for functional improvement. He urges Haesujin to maintain the tea's concentration. He then talks about the pill and the fact that it was slightly lacking. Haesujin asks him what the issue is, and he lets her know that wolfberries are excellent ingredients, but they need to be combined with other components. He suggests that they cultivate the other ingredients alongside the wolfberries to increase the efficacy. He tells Haesujin that she is free to supply the ingredients if she's having difficulty getting the right mix. However, this would mean that the stamina booster would be sold under the Purity brand. However, he lets her know that whatever she chooses is fine by him. Haesujin is surprised to hear how confident the Apostle is, and she reminds him that she might end up having a formidable competitor. The Apostle then tells her that they don't really care about this because they are always in search of new and powerful stimulation. He mentions that they started producing it themselves because there weren't enough people providing sufficient stimulation. However, the existence of a capable producer is always welcome. When Haesujin recounts this mission summary to Chansu, he freaks out because he realizes that Purity guys might be an insane bunch. Apparently, it is a taboo for those in the Purity clan to make love, which is why they grow by enduring their passions. In fact, they started seeking stronger simulations for their training. Purity was able to take over the night market, and even though they are a small faction, they ended up securing a solid economic and military power. Haesujin tells Chansu that it would be beneficial for them to get certified by Purity directly. But at the same time, entrusting the manufacturing to them is also a fine choice. Haesujin then shows Chansu the ingredients that were requested by Purity. Chansu takes a look at the ingredients and realizes that these are ingredients that he is seeing for the first time. Chansu then asks Haesujin if she is selling the wolfberry tea, and she confirms this, saying she even wants to supply all hotels located in Purity too. Since they have achieved their goal, Chansu suggests that they develop the stamina booster slowly. Chansu believes that everything has come to a calm state until he gets a visit from the Legend of Purity. This is a man who has not engaged in pleasure since the age of 40. This man is Park Hang-yeol, the Archmage of Purity. Apparently, he has come to see Chansu because he claims that he is on the verge of losing his manhood function, and if he loses it, he is going to be expelled from Purity. Chansu freaks out when he finds out that the chances of recovery are pretty low. In the start, people saw Purity as just a facade befitting the image of Purity. They were seen as ones who lived an unstained life with an aura that transcended the secular world. However, the whole block was built on territorial warfare, and given the fact that Purity has a weak faction, its future was obvious. To protect its power, Purity realized that it needed power. This was when Park realized that chastity is not the same as purity. He figures out that as long as self-control is maintained, anything is fine. With this realization, Park alone was able to produce half of the total points generated by Purity in just 1 year. Chansu is surprised to hear this, and he asks Park if the god of Purity allowed him to do that. Park narrates that there were initial talks about excommunicating him, but once the god saw the points he was generating, he personally encouraged Park's method. This induced a great wind of innovation in Purity. Deep down, Chansu believes that this is all an addiction because both sides are corrupted at this point. Apparently, the greater the temptation one endures, the faster their spirit grows. In no time, the skill grew so much that even before impulses arose, the temptation had disappeared. Since the duty of Purity is to suppress pleasure impulses and maintain integrity, Park knows he is going to lose his qualifications if the root itself disappears. Because of this, Park holds Chansu's hand, begging him to help him out, because there seems to be hope in the wolfberries. Chansu is left in confusion because he doesn't think he has what it takes to defeat a skill that has been honed for over 30 years. Park then tells him that it is not an immediate problem, so he begs him to focus on product development. Park brings out an envelope and he hands it to Chansu. He lets him know that he is ready to support his research with everything. Chansu opens the envelope and almost passes out in shock because of the high amount of money that Park is willing to give him as a reward if he succeeds. Because of how high the reward is, Chansu has no choice but to accept the task. Meanwhile, one of the first generations of the Purity Apostles calls a meeting with his colleagues. Apparently they want to start building plans on how to maintain Purity itself. It has come to their attention that Abundance has created a stamina booster. They have also verified its effectiveness, and judging from consumer reactions, they believe that stronger versions wouldn't be impossible. Apparently, the food division of alchemy is furious because of the berry tea. This is because some are already choosing the tea over what alchemy has been selling. The apostles are surprised that the grand alchemist Unsu brushed this matter aside. One of them then mentions that Unsu's friend, Rohan, has taken the apostle of abundance under his wings. They start thinking of the next thing, and one suggests that they approach Chansu with a good offer. Another mentions that they actually know his block's location, but going directly will definitely not work. He points out that Park, who is now with Chansu, would just detect them and chase them out. One of them immediately comes up with a suggestion. He tells his colleagues that they need to ally themselves with alchemy and draw out Chansu. Once Chansu is left alone, they kick their plan into motion. Back at Chansu's territory, he tells Yunhook to follow him because he has something to tell him. Just then, Yunhook spots his defeated creation, Hercules, in the distance. He rushes over to hug the headless creature because he didn't think he would ever see it again. Apparently, Chansu restored it because he figured out that Yunhook would resent him if he allowed Hercules to rot. Since Chansu and Yunhook will be working together, he figures out that it would be better if he raises his affection level. Chansu then asks Yunhook if he doesn't mind that the Hercules is missing its head, and Yunhook says no because the job he needs it for is simple labor. In fact, with Hercules by his side, he is confident that his labor output will increase by 17 times. Chansu then points out the skeleton soldiers too, but Yunhook is not convinced that the skeleton soldiers would be of much help. However, Chansu urges Yunhook to teach them because they might get better at it. Yunhook reluctantly agrees to this, but says they have to, or else they are just going to get in the way. Chansu is actually impressed that Yunhook can handle the skeleton soldiers, and he considers him an affectionate person. Suddenly, Chansu hears a scream in the distance, and when he looks around, he sees Park chasing around the hard worker. Apparently, Park believes that the dude is the perfect person to inherit his legacy, but the dude says he is not interested because he would like to get married and live happily ever after. The dude hides behind Chansu for safety, and Chansu urges Park not to push the dude too hard. Park then asks Chansu if he is interested in inheriting his legacy, but Chansu outrightly refuses. Chansu then whips out the new pills that he just finished, and he tells Park to try them out. Park tastes the two and mentions that they both fall under 32 and 33 points, respectively. This is pretty low because their target point is at least 90. However, Park tells Chansu to hold his head high because an ordinary man would have turned into a beast just by taking the pills. Chansu then asks why he hasn't been able to reach 40 points. Park lets him know that the caster's mental state affects blessings. He mentions that sometimes empathy comes before problem solving. Park then decides to show him what he means. He reaches his lower body and Chansu freaks out believing that he wants to bring out his schlong. However, Park whips out an adult book, telling Chansu that he is the only one he can show. At this point, Chansu believes that the dude is crazy. Chansu is still trying to pull himself together when Haesujin shows up bringing news as usual. With excitement on her face, she tells Chansu that alchemy has sent a dungeon subjugation request to Chansu. Chansu hears this and immediately pictures a dragon in his head, causing him to freak out because he doesn't know why they would request this from a farmer. Chansu wonders why they sent this request to him, since all he has is a rusty sickle, and the only skill he has is decapitation, which barely counts as one in the first place. Chansu is forced to ask Haisujin if he doesn't look like a farmer because everything just doesn't seem right to him. Haisujin then tells Chansu that they might have called it a subjugation, but in truth it is a gathering request to obtain monster byproducts. It then dawns on Chansu that they might want a situation where what they want doesn't spoil. Basically, whatever Chansu cuts doesn't spoil, and Chansu asks Haisujin if the target is a plant-type monster, but Haisujin reveals that it is a high-grade water spirit. Apparently, high-grade spirits need to be taken down in one blow if one wants a chance to cut off their lifeline. Basically, this is why the request is for someone with powerful firepower, like a swordmaster. Chansu cannot believe that the request was sent to him, since it would have been suitable for Rohan. Since Chansu is reluctant to leave the territory, he thinks of refusing the request. Chansu then tells Haisujin that he is not interested, shocking her. She asks him if he is sure that he wants to reject the offer because the reward that comes with it is quite enormous. Haisujin lets him know that he will be provided with a weapon, and after this, he gets the chance to tame a water spirit. The moment Chansu hears this, he automatically becomes interested, since a water spirit is a dream item for every farmer. Haisujin then tells Chansu that it would be better if he accepts because they are currently on alchemy's bad side. Chansu then remembers that Haisujin mentioned the wolfberry tea being overshadowing alchemy's products. Haisujin confirms this, saying the request is just an excuse to clear up a misunderstanding. Haisujin then asks Chansu if there is any other reason why he is hesitating, and he reveals that he doesn't want to leave his block defenseless. Haisujin understands his plight, and she suggests that Chansu finish up the temple first. Haisujin mentions that they also received construction materials through alchemy. In addition, it appears that temples have a protective function. Chansu is surprised to hear this, and Haisujin lets him know that the temple is not treated as a strategic resource for nothing. Some days later, Chansu completes the temple, and the goddess reflects on the events that have happened in the past days. She believes that Chansu is finally making the decision to focus on internal affairs. She also wishes that Chansu would just obtain the communication skills to make everything perfect. Suddenly, the skill, the Last Bastion, activates in the temple, shocking the goddess and her subordinates because this is a wartime defense skill. It turns out that Chansu is testing out the temple's defenses by asking Rohan to strike it. Fortunately, the defense happens to be solid because it even blocked Rohan's strikes. Once this is settled, Chansu tells Haisujin that he can finally leave. However, he forgets to tell the goddess, but he believes that nothing would happen, since he is not staying long. Moments later, they arrive at the alchemy headquarters, and the journey was quite fast, thanks to the fact that they installed gates on their paths. Once Haisujin drops Chansu and Rohan off at the headquarters, she leaves. Chansu meets the receptionist, who tells him that they have been waiting for him. She hands Chansu a box containing the weapon they promised him, and she lets him know that he is free to exchange it for another if he doesn't like it. Chansu ends up handing over the box to Rohan for safekeeping in exchange for 2 apples. The lady then tells Chansu that he would have to cast a blessing on the potion used to tame the water spirit. She lets him know that she also can use their own blessing, because his own blessing of abundance might fail. She asks Chansu what option he is going to choose, and since there is no record of what would happen if he uses his blessing, Chansu decides to use his own blessing. The lady then tells Chansu to follow her to the dungeon so he can hear the rest of the explanation as they go. Moments later, they arrive at the dungeon, and the lady lets Chansu know that everything has been set up already. Apparently, they are in a hunting ground for ordinary water spirits, and if he lights incense, they are going to come running to him, giving him the chance to hunt as many as he likes. However, he is required to defeat the boss, but the byproducts will belong to alchemy. Since the boss is in a separate location, the lady tells Chansu to let her know when he is ready. For the first thing, she tells him to cast his blessing on the taming potion. Chansu then casts his blessing on the potion, leaving a bright light as he pours in his blessing. Since he can cast as many as he wants, Chansu continues casting his blessing into the potion, and before he knows it, he has achieved 500,000 points, ultimately turning the blue potion into green. The lady confesses that this is the first time she has seen such a reaction. Curious, she rushes over to bring a water spirit. She throws the water spirit at Chansu, telling him to throw the potion at the water spirit. The potion hits the spirit midway, and the water spirit starts to absorb it. This leaves them wondering if it actually happened. Suddenly, the water spirit starts to puke, leaving Chansu to believe that his compatibility rate is bad. Chansu is thinking of what to do when a horde of water spirits rushes into the room, shocking the alchemy lady because they have not even released the bait yet. The lady immediately whips out her book to take notes because this is the first time something like this has happened. Suddenly, the first water spirit starts consuming its colleagues, further contributing to the list of things that the lady has not seen before. She asks Chansu if he took some weird medicine, but Chansu promises that he didn't. The lady then mentions that the spirit might be suffering from an overdose because it appears that the abundance blessing is acting as a lure. In no time, the first spirit absorbs the others, and suddenly, the boss appears in the room, which is weird because lures are not supposed to work on bosses. Chansu immediately gets on the defensive because he has come face to face with the target of the quest, a high-grade spirit. He is still trying to figure out what to do when the other spirit starts absorbing the boss spirit, causing it to get even bigger. The lady crashes to her knees because she can't believe that the boss just got eaten right in her presence. Even Chansu holds his head in frustration, wondering why they asked a farmer to clear a dungeon. To make it worse, the spirit's puking got even worse. Chansu tries to comfort the spirit, telling it that it is not its fault because he is the one who should have thought twice before throwing the medicine at it. Chansu places his hand on the spirit, urging it to let it all out because it would definitely feel better. Chansu also decides to stabilize the energy that is rampaging inside the spirit. After letting off a lot of liquid, the spirit ends up getting smaller. Chansu is about to say it is cute when it spits on his face. Just then, the water spirit transforms into an orb and sits gently on Chansu's hand. The lady alchemist then congratulates Chansu, telling him that he has successfully tamed a water spirit. However, she lets him know that she breached the contract by not securing the high-grade water spirit. Just then, she lets him know the 2 things he has to say if anyone tries to pin this logic on him. The first thing he's going to say is that the medicine provided by alchemy caused the whole mess, and secondly, he will be handing over the rights to the water that came out of the spirit. Chansu is surprised that they are interested in the vomit, but he really doesn't mind. The lady lets Chansu know that the spirit will wake up once it regains its spirit. However, she warns him that it might look different than usual, but she urges him not to be scared or shocked. Suddenly, a dude from the food department rushes into the room, declaring the whole raid a failure. Since Chansu is said to have failed, he mentions that Chansu would have to pay a penalty fee. Chansu immediately follows the lady's advice, and he mentions that the medicine provided by alchemy was what caused the mess. The dude argues that Chansu was the one who used it wrongly. He declares that they are going to be confiscating the water spirit and the weapon provided. Just then, Rohan throws his sword at the guy, but misses by an inch, thanks to Onsu showing up to drag him out of harm's way. The dude's eyes flash before his eyes, and Rohan mentions how pissed he is that he is making a mess of everything. Yunsu tells Rohan that he should resort to greetings instead of violence, since they have not even seen each other in ages. Yunsu then urges the dude to leave because he has no right to be there, or else he wants to lose his dispatcher qualifications and get buried in lawsuits. The dude immediately apologizes for causing a ruckus, and he leaves. Yunsu then walks up to Chansu to introduce himself to the dude. He apologizes that things got heated up on their first meeting, and he suggests that they wrap up business first. Yunsu tells Chansu that the raid might have failed, but thanks to that, they have a chance at the potent spirit water. He is pretty sure that alchemy is going to go crazy when they learn about a water that lures a boss. Since Chansu is not going to need it, he suggests that Chansu sell it to them. Chansu cannot believe that they are willing to pay money for puke. Yunsu lets him know that they are going to mark the raid a success if he sells it, but if he doesn't, they are not going to. Yunsu has not even finished saying this when Chansu agrees to sell it. After this, Yunsu lets Chansu know that they have equipment that can make life easy for him without having prior knowledge about alchemy. Chansu has no issue with this, but he is more concerned with making medicine. He is scared that this might cause a conflict of interest like the tea. Yunsu smiles, telling Chansu that they will always welcome a competitor, as long as they are competent. On their way out of the headquarters, Chansu reveals that he is not Rohan's disciple. Chansu then asks Yunsu if he is cool with Rohan. Yunsu is confused by this, and Chansu reminds him that Rohan threw a sword at him because of him. Yunsu smiles, telling Chansu that this is nothing, because Rohan probably doesn't even care. Chansu then tells Yunsu that Rohan is obsessed with apples. He wants to know if there is anything that can be done, but Yunsu tells him to give up because there is no way to convince Rohan. Just then, a driver pulls up beside them, telling Chansu that he is there to escort him, leaving Chansu confused. Apparently, Purity was the one who sent the dude to pick Chansu. On their way to Purity headquarters, Chansu is surprised that Purity would even ask to see him. He assumes that Purity is curious about Park, who is staying with him. Upon arriving at Purity, Chansu is surprised to see that it is dark, just like Hasujin mentioned. Chansu steps out of the vehicle, and he is blown away by how massive and beautiful the Purity temple is. He admits that it is different from the others, and the driver urges him to follow him so he can escort him to the reception room. Moments later, Chansu and Rohan arrive at the room where the elders are waiting. The elders apologize to Chansu for calling him out of the blue. They assume that he is tired from his journey, and they offer him tea. One of them then asks Chansu about Park. Chansu then decides that he is going to tell the truth to avoid giving false hopes. Chansu mentions that there have been no improvements whatsoever. Another elder asks him about the development of the medicine, and Chansu reveals that it is slow, but there is a bit of progress. They ask him if there is the possibility for progress, and Chansu assures them that he is going to try his best. Suddenly, the elder with glasses on tells Chansu to stop the production of the cure, shocking Chansu. In fact, they want him to drag out the completion process for the medicine. Chansu reveals his confusion because he believes that Park is important to them. One of them then tells Chansu that it would be better if he joined them, since making the medicine is difficult. They let Chansu know that they are going to give him double of whatever Park promised him. This is when it dawns on Chansu that he might have gotten himself involved in a troublesome issue because they appear to be wary of Park because of his influence. Chansu then tells the elders that he is just going to ignore what he just heard. Deep down, Chansu cannot believe that they expect him to trust people who would betray their own comrades. Chansu then stands up to leave, telling the elders that he hopes they all reach an amicable agreement. One of them screams at Chansu, telling him that purity is not the way it's supposed to be. He talks about the vulgar things that the apostles are doing, but Chansu reminds them that whatever is happening is also the will of their God. Just then, one of them tells Chansu that they are going to cancel the tea certification that they gave to him. Chansu is shocked when he hears this because they pushed him into a corner. Chansu starts thinking of talking to them, but he lets them know that going back on their words would basically make purity lose its credibility. Rohan then tells Chansu that it is time for them to leave. The elder in glasses screams at Chansu, telling him that he is going to regret his decision, but Chansu tells them to do whatever they like. After Chansu is gone, the elder in glasses apologizes to his comrades, saying his acting must have been lacking. However, they let him know that he tried his best because they all chose this plan, since direct harm is not allowed. Since their third method is a failure, the group decides to move to plan 4. With no one in objection, they all decide to go ahead with the plan, since they are all aiming to achieve their target. Apparently, they are going to make Chansu lose focus on creating the vitality potion by diverting his focus to other things. In short, they are planning to make Chansu a hero. Not long after this, Chansu returns to the territory and the goddess rushes over to hug him. The others are also happy to see him, and they just wish he would get the communication skill quickly so that everything can become easy. Park then asks Chansu if he had a safe trip, and Chansu lets him know that he did, thanks to him protecting the block. Chansu then tells Park that he has something to tell him, and this is the fact that the elders are betraying him. Park doesn't want to believe this because he believes that the elders are just having a minor feud. But when Chansu tells him that the elders already instructed him to stop making the vitality potion, Park almost shatters into pieces. Park apologizes for this and tells Chansu that he will leave to sort everything, but Rohan tells him that it would be better not to go. Chansu mentions that after talking with Rohan, they have figured out that the elders are just trying to delay the development of the vitality potion. Chansu says it appears that the elders have no trick up their sleeve, but he doesn't know what it is yet. Park then says the elders care about their bodies and would not do something that is dangerous. He believes that the elders might just call Chansu to apologize, but Chansu doubts this because the elders are really proud. Park then asks Chansu what he plans to do, and Chansu reveals his plan to speed up the development of the vitality potion. Suddenly, a bright light starts shining from under Chansu's lower body. Park immediately assumes the worst, but Chansu quickly whips out the source of the light, which is the water spirit orb. Apparently, the water spirit is waking up from its sleep, and when the goddess sees this, she starts wondering what her apostles have gone ahead and done again. Just then, the water spirit emerges and jumps on the ground. To Chansu's surprise, it is not what he expected because it turned out to be a slime. Meanwhile, the Purity Elder's 4-stage plan is basically to conciliate, threaten, stall for time, and then make Chansu a hero. Chansu freezes up as he tries to understand why the water spirit is a slime. Even Park is surprised because he has never heard of a water spirit being a slime. Chansu then gets close to the slime to touch it, only for the slime to whip out its squishy hands, shocking Chansu. Nonetheless, Chansu figures out that the spirit can understand them. Park then congratulates Chansu, saying it is hard to tame spirits. Just as expected, the goddess's subordinates start screaming at the slime to greet the goddess, since it is the latest addition to the team. Chansu then introduces the slime to the rest of the team, and it dawns on him that the slime doesn't have a name yet. As usual, Rohan comes up with one of his weird suggestions. He tells Chansu that they should name the slime Wadit, but Chansu immediately rejects the idea, and he decides to name the slime Spring. Park is pleased with the name, and he asks Chansu if it has any meaning. Chansu reveals that he took the name from the spring season when plants grow fresh and lively. After he is done naming the slime, he suggests that they see what the slime can do. Just then, he notices that everyone on the team is hungry, and he decides to make food first. He tells Park to stay around because it is dinner time already, assuring him that he is going to prepare something delicious. In no time, Chansu gets down to preparations, and Park asks him what he is planning to make. Chansu replies that Park will find out very soon. When Chansu needs help with the apple, he throws it to Rohan, who slices it into tiny bits with his sword. Park cannot believe what he just witnessed because he never thought a sword could be used this way. Not long after this, Chansu finishes preparing the food. He made potato noodle pasta, potato pancakes, candy, braised, and a special apple pie for Rohan only. Park takes a bite of his dish and declares that it is very delicious. Park declares that he regrets not eating with Chansu all this time. Chansu lets him know that there is still plenty, so he urges Park to take his time. In fact, Chansu wishes Rohan could eat what they are eating too, but he is busy with his apple pie. Chansu then tries to feed Spring with his blessing, but Spring wants food, not blessings. Chansu then throws him an apple first, and Spring absorbs the apple in no time. Spring enjoys the apple so much that it starts blushing. Chansu lets Spring know that there is a lot, so he can always eat as much as he wants. Not long after this, Chansu visits the other block, and Yoonhook runs over to tell Chansu that they just created a path so that he can easily cross over to the other block. Because of this, their efficiency has also increased. In fact, Hercules is working really hard and everybody on the farm is trying their best. Chansu cannot believe how enthusiastic the bunch are even though they are prisoners. Yoonhook notices the slime, and Chansu introduces it to Yoonhook. Yoonhook and the others are shocked that Chansu has managed to tame a water spirit. Chansu commends Yoonhook's work so far and suggests that they take a break so that they can see Spring's abilities. Chansu then tells Spring to show them its abilities. Spring then uses its power to create the nearby lake, shooting up a large quantity of water. Chansu is impressed by this, but the water ends up splashing in Night Sky's direction. Pissed off by this, Night Sky leaps towards Spring, but Chansu grabs it to pet it. He lets Spring know that Night Sky is gentle, but at the same time, it might be scary when angry. Chansu manages to defuse the situation, and he tells the workers to return to work. After everything has settled down, Chansu continues playing with Spring, and he tells it to make some drinking water. Spring excitedly does this, and they are still having fun when Chansu notices that the system window is glitching. The occupancy rights are glitching, leaving him confused, and suddenly, Night Sky leaps onto his body. Before Chansu knows it, Night Sky bites him, ultimately stripping him of the rights to certain territories. Chansu grabs Night Sky when he sees this, as he tries to understand why it did what it did. He remembers making life easy and convenient for the cat by providing everything it wants, only for it to repay him with something like this. While Chansu is busy crying about the rights that he lost, he notices that the cat is smiling. Instead of overreacting, Chansu decides to calm down because he knows Night Sky is a smart creature, and there must have been a reason why it did what it did. He notices that he lost occupancy rights, but at the same time, the system window has returned to normal. Just then, Park shows up, and Chansu asks him where Rohan is. Park reveals that Rohan is currently training, and he asks Chansu if something is wrong because he looks absolutely dejected. Chansu then tells him what happened, and Park screams out, asking if he just encountered an occupancy parasite. Chansu is confused by this, and he asks Park what he means by this. He asks Chansu if he has been doing a closed-door training somewhere because he expects him to know everything. Park then explains that if a block gets infected, the moment one buys the occupancy rights to the block, the buyer also gets infected. If the infected buyer buys a right to another block, the new block also gets infected. If this process continues like that, it basically ends in total ruin. Park mentions that the infection multiplies infinitely and even stays hidden, which is why it is hard to notice if one is hidden. Park lets him know that by the time the infected knows what is happening, the infection will be complete. Chansu then asks Park what happens when a block is overtaken by the parasite, and Park reveals that the block loses its functions. Basically, buffs and debuffs disappear, and entrances get blocked. Park lets Chansu know that the blocks he has owned before would also get infected, and he urges Chansu to be careful. Chansu looks through his possessions and realizes that he still has 90 occupancy rights, which means Night Sky only ate the 10 affected rights. Chansu is glad to hear this because he is pretty sure that Night Sky would never have done that without a reason. Chansu walks up to Night Sky and provides more blessings for its home, thanking it. Nonetheless, Chansu is sad that all the blocks connected to the city are gone when he finally manages to open a path. Chansu then remembers that when he bought the occupancy rights near the city, there were other factions. Chansu then asks Park if there is an insecticide or something for the bug because he wants to know how they have dealt with the issue till that moment. Park mentions that there might be a solution, but there has not been a certain solution. Chansu then notices that Hamstol is disturbing him, and he shuns it off. Suddenly, he realizes that there must be a reason, and it suddenly dawns on him that the goddess might be the reason. Meanwhile, the goddess is currently missing Chansu because he has not been focusing on the goddess for a while. Her subordinates are comforting her when a black portal suddenly opens in the sky. A voice emerges from the portal talking about how he smells something nice that he would like to have. The goddess and her subordinates threaten the monster, telling it to leave or else it will regret it. The bird and the pig then charge toward the monster, and the goddess tries telling them to stay back because it is too much for them to handle by themselves. While charging toward the monster, the two imagine themselves transforming into their scary battle form. The two kick the monster, but they end up getting knocked down. Just when the goddess is about to sacrifice the points that Chansu has worked for, Rohan shows up to one-shot the monster. After destroying the monster, Rohan bows to the goddess, and she is surprised to see Rohan bowing to her. Rohan even sits with them, and he brings out an apple for them to eat. The chick and the pig wasted no time consuming the food. The goddess finally concludes that Rohan is a good person, since he is Chansu's friend. Just then, Chansu comes rushing over, and with fear written all over him, he asks if anything happened. The chick wastes no time insulting him for leaving them alone. When Chansu heard that Rohan helped them, he bows to him, thanking him for saving them. Rohan then mentions that it was an occupancy parasite that showed up, but he cut it down already. However, Chansu lets Rohan know that he has not finished off the parasite, and this is just the beginning of their problems because the parasites will keep appearing from that moment on. Rohan is still munching on his apple, but when he hears this, his appetite vanishes. Well guys, that's the end of the video. If you like this video, comment next part in the comment section.